about the leadership that this country is going to have in a short while. So, gentlemen, when you see this picture, what does it say to you? This is the country we're in. What part of that are you going to advance? What part of that are you going to change? Can I start with the aspiring senator? How did we come to this end as a country?
I think we are a country which is majorly having counterfeiters and counterfeits, and I'm shocked that we had a counterfeit policeman. I think the only thing I can promise this nation is that I will stick to honest leadership, and that we need people who are willing to sacrifice for the truth and say the truth. I actually think, Louis, that there's more than meets the eye as to the function of this guy called Waiganjo. I do not want to say more, but I think it is something more than just the normal mistake of someone being there. I think it is calculated and planned with specific functions. We've seen this before in their tools and among others. I have no specific information, but my guess is as good as yours as to what was the function of this guy.
I think Kenya is a country full of drama and a lot of circus. I think the national leadership has not been very honest with Kenyans. There are mistakes that have been made, convenient mistakes. And if you look at the major scandals that have happened in this country, have all been perpetrated, and they've been perpetrated to help people get to various levels. The case of the fake Assistant Commissioner of Police, 5 years, is unacceptable, and I think whoever is responsible, and however this can happen in a country that boasts of sovereignty donated, I think it's a tragedy.
Let's bounce back to our discussion this evening. Can you put this up for me? This is the situation we're in now. And this is more of what we're going to see in a few days. I think this is now way up your street. Does that describe any of you guys? Does it?
I think it does describe Kipchumba.
Why is Kipchumba described in there? Kipchumba, speak for yourself. Hapo ni gani yenu ya kutenda, ni gani yenu ya kufanya nini?
Well, I think
this is what Kenyans are looking at. Essentially, that's what I'm showing you.
Yeah.
So when Kenyans walk into such illustrations, do you see the disconnect between your messaging as politicians and the messaging that Kenyans are receiving?
Well, yeah, there is a disconnect. I think we are not doing enough to engage the citizens as it should. And one of the reasons is because if you look at everything in this country, it's like we are a last-minute country. So that then there is no humble time for political parties and politicians and citizens to engage. But also, I agree with Neto to a great extent that we are also growing. We can see there is a better ownership as of now.
That growing thing is
but I mean, Louis,
all the things we're not fixing in time.
Yeah, but honestly, we are moving. There's a step we are taking, but we are not doing enough. And
Neto, you're saying you're not in that.
Yeah.
No. I am faithful to a political party, and I've never tried to tender na kutenda. But the thing is this: I really think the people who are supposed to enforce the law enforcers are the ones that are doing Kenyans a disservice. The registered political parties, for example. I mean, the Political Parties Act is very clear that someone who does propagate the principles of another party while still in the other party should not actually be a member of a political party. You understand? So when the registered political parties, for example, I mean, the law is very lean, gives a lot of latitude to enforce and crack the whip. She doesn't do it. And this is where everyone else goes in the business of forming alliances. They're still forming on alliances, sticking on to another party, which the law actually doesn't allow. So then why can't she enforce the law? You blame the politician because the politician knows they can continue for on and on. The person cracking the whip is not doing anything else, so it's party as usual. I mean, I really think the politician, power, like everything else, needs to be controlled. So if the person is supposed to enforce the law, doesn't enforce the law, the politician is a big party.
I'm coming to you, Peter, but Joe, I want to know, are we looking for who to point fingers at, or are we looking for where we're going to fix this thing from?
Well, maybe we need to point the fingers a little bit before we do that, because quite frankly, I mean, when you see members of parliament, for like Kipchumba was mentioning, I mean, we are in this problem because of the laws that have been passed in Parliament. I mean, these people were, for instance, they had a December 4th deadline, which they pushed. I mean, I remember very well there were people who had, parties that had scheduled their nominations for December last year. But then somehow they discovered, oh, we need to strike this alliance and the other thing. They pushed this thing forward. The political parties question, for example, if you talk to the registrar's office, one of the things that they will say, recently there was a problem with people who are illegally registered into political parties without their consent. And what was the problem? The parties, the political parties themselves, the members of parliament, when they were talking about these things, they never made it a requirement that I have to sign, for example, somewhere for me to be a member of a party. So Louis, they'll get your identity card somewhere, maybe M-Pesa agent or whichever place they might, or IBC.
That you guys up.
Then they'll use it and register you in some party that you don't even know.
Yeah,
because there's all these loopholes because they know what they'll do with it down the road, I think.
Yeah, Joe, but that gets back to the same point I'm trying to advance. Listen, there is sanction within the law. What do you do to a political party that definitely violates the Political Parties Act? There's sanctions on it. They register it. That is there in the law. She doesn't require anyone's permission or authority to do it. And she lets the persons continue perpetuating impunity to, this is the level we've gotten to, because the politician knows I can perpetuate impunity, no one is going to give me sanctions, whereas the sanctions exist in law and the person is empowered to do that in law.
So what do we do when you change the laws tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what can we do? There is nothing. I mean, just wait for the next election to vote them out. That is the only thing we can do, and that's 5 years.
Yeah, but
Peter wants to weigh in. Peter wants to weigh in. Let me make use of the fact that I have an expert in conflict.
Yeah, I think I need to.
Yes,
I need to, perhaps not as chairman of the tribunal, but as somebody who has worked very closely with the registrar of political parties, I must differ with Waneneto, because it is not the job of the registrar to go sniffing around for disputes. A party which feels that one of its members is breaching its constitution or is breaching the Political Parties Act has to move the registrar. Go and say, this member of mine is breaching this part of the constitution of the party or this part of the Political Parties Act. Can you take action? Once you request her to take action, she will take action. But if you don't go to her, if you don't move, so to speak, the registrar, it is not her job to go around every political party and say, I think you're not doing the right thing, come, and look for disputes. And therefore, she will enforce if you move and ask her to use her powers. That's really, in fact, in every piece of legislation, that is how it works. The law courts, for instance, will not go to your house and say, I think the husband and wife are not getting together, come and bring your divorce to court. It doesn't happen.
Neto, why are you misleading us?
I'm not misleading you. In fact, I just wanted to tell you that he's reading that particular aspect of the law very selectively.
Which is the parties missed out?
Several things happen. The Political Parties Act allows the registrar of political parties. I mean, I have a concern, for example, the party that I belong to, ODM, did actually write to the registrar of political parties, saying some of its members were actually propagating aspirations about the political parties. She didn't take any action. Party is moved, as is required by the law, she refuses to act. You understand? That's one aspect. The second aspect is that when it comes to a flagrant violation of the law, which is about a member of a political party, a secretary general of a political party, goes to the M-Pesa person, this is brought to the registrar's attention. There are many Kenyans who complained. I mean, several people sent messages, discovered they're members of political parties they never registered with. There were several complaints. And the best they did is just to open the secretariat, complaints were made, she didn't take no action. Why didn't we see 5, 6, 7, 8 political parties registered?
I will answer that.
Yes, Peter.
If you go to the registrar and her decision is not to take action, come to the tribunal.
Absolutely.
You've never come to the tribunal.
Yeah.
You've never complained.
Why didn't you end up at Peter's desk?
Why don't you come to the tribunal?
Okay,
Can I tell you why? Can I tell you why? Let me tell you why.
Wait, no, you can't. First of all, you're not even in Parliament. He's in Parliament. Why did you not
This is a party issue, it's not a Parliament issue.
Let's keep Shuba have his first.
No, it's not a Parliament issue. Let me tell you why. These people were busy looking for individuals, even including his own party, to bring into coalition. So they were not willing to take any action. They were just saying, we'll bring this guy, we'll bring this other person, we will scare them a little bit, and once they're scared, we'll bring them back to negotiate with them. It will be a lie for you for NATO to take the high priest position and the holier than thou position. Their party is as guilty as many other political parties.
You're not looking good now.
Yeah.
I think it's not a political party issue, but let me just say, I mean, I raised the particular issue of, I mean, I just picked it up from Peter Simam, who said that political parties need to move the register of political parties. I am saying we move the register of political parties.
But he's also told you there was a next level. Why did you not escalate it? So a lot of times we see stories that die midway. They say they moved. Now they're being told there was a next level to escalate. I think there's an element to which also we have to push it out there that they're not doing their utmost. They haven't exhausted what they're supposed to do.
Do the parties know that you exist to begin with?
Okay, that's even.
I mean, and do they know that?
Really?
And do they know what you're supposed to do?
Okay, Joe has thrown a spanner. Joe has thrown a spanner into all this.
I'm not assuming anything.
Let me
There are
answer that.
amazing things that have happened in this country. There are many laws that are passed in Parliament, and then people turn around.
So, Neto, do you know that Peter is there?
Yes.
So you deliberately didn't go to Peter?
Unfortunately, I'm not the Secretary General of the party, but I think in terms of moving the register of political parties, we did move the register of political parties.
Neto is just stuck at, they went to the
I
registrar.
think, Joe, what you're saying, I don't know that you should ask that question because the leaders of these political parties are the politicians that pass this law. So you really can't ask the question, do they know
what
whether
I mean
this...
is, how many laws are passed in Parliament and
I
members
agree
of
with
Parliament
Joe.
themselves don't know what they
I
passed.
agree with Joe.
It happens.
Actually, that question is not to discredit the tribunal. It's actually the truth that parliamentarians pass laws that they don't know. The people who are helping pass the laws may be 5 or 10. The rest of the masses are there to just say,
it's a cheering school.
I saw opposed or not opposed, it's okay, it's okay.
And
now
later,
when you go back to the law, you realize that it's not working. And when did we pass this one? Which day?
At least...
Let me hear from Anne.
Yes,
Let me hear from
thank
Anne.
you, Louis.
Yes.
On this issue of people finding themselves under various parties where they didn't even register, well, what is the procedure is that the person who feels aggrieved by that should first and foremost write to the political party. First and foremost, Kenyans do not know where some of these political parties are. Some of them have names which you have never heard of, and even they may not be in existence. Then that same letter that is written by the aggrieved party is copied to the registrar of societies. I think for me that is okay, but again, then the next thing is that the IEBC, what is their role? What will they do? The Kenyans are not being given clear directions as to what can happen and how to do it, and people do not know where to go. People are aggrieved, they are aware they're in different parties which they never registered and or don't have an interest in, and they're really bitter. So I think something has to happen here. Someone needs to educate the people. Someone needs to also clearly give guidelines as to what can happen. We cannot continuously blame the registrar of societies. She can only do so much. The mistake came from and was done by the political parties, not her.
A couple of things.
Hang on. I want to see, there's also the typical Kenyan reaction to this. Yeah. And my good friend Mshamba always goes out there and takes a look at how Kenyans behave and react to these things. Although now it's very clear. There's a responsibility to which members of parliament and political parties actually have not lived up to. But let me have a look at my friend Mshamba and what he lined up for us this evening.
Yeah, Asante, thank you very much. Ini kasetikan? Oh, KTN. Okay, thank you very much. Sasa, I've called you people to make things very clear. Watu wamesema ati mimi sijui nimeenda chamakani, ati sijui I'm meeting some people at night. Kwani siwezi wakutana nao mchana? Na wampia, and I want to say it very clearly. I am in ODM. Hiyo ndio chama ambayo niko nandi. Na najua kwamba it is the winning party. Yes, I cannot join losing parties. Siniko ODM. Ama namna gani? Sini ODM. Yeah, these are just part of these are part of my constituents, and I cannot fail my constituents. Yeah, I'm in ODM kwa tamu. Kama kuna mtu yuko na swali utachiku, sasa nimekuchipa. Thank you. Mwende muandike hiyo kwa kaseti. Hello. Oh, sorry for that. Yes, I want to tell you very clearly that you people of the media keep on misquoting me. Nani alisema niko ODM? Mimi I'm in DNA. Ukiangalia itai, it is red. My blood inside, it is red. My DNA, it is red. Why should I be in ODM? Who said I'm in ODM? You people of the media keep creating issues. You keep creating stories so that you can sell your newspaper, you can be viewed and everything. Let me tell you today, I am TNA Damu. If you have any question, shauri yako. Ona kwa kaseti, usome kwamba niko TNA Damu. Alafu mwandike vitu zingine.
Same guy, different quotes. Joe, same person, different situation, different statements, and of course, it's always easy to blame the media.
Just
beyond that,
just wait for the 18th, and you're going to see like 20,000 of those. I mean, it's a typical Kenyan thing. Look at what happened on December 4th, when we had, I think, 14 or 15 presidential aspirants, and suddenly right now it makes my work easier because we have fewer. But then look at the gymnastics that we saw on that December 4th, where some people today are in this party, tomorrow say, oh yeah, we've agreed and all that. Look at what happened with the money and Jubilee and all these things. Look at what has happened with the new Ford Kenya leader. I mean, it is a typical Kenyan thing, and that is why I was saying in the beginning that political parties don't seem to mean anything. I mean, are we ever going to get to a point where if someone said, I'm in ODM, then you can clearly know what they stand for even before they say it? If someone says, I'm in TNA, then you can say, I know what these people have in terms of their position with regard to this and the other thing. I mean, in other places, if someone says, I'm a Democrat, you can tell what their stand is on abortion, on immigration, and all sorts of things. But it doesn't matter here. That is why on 17th, someone will lose, and then the following day, they will get another certificate out of their pocket and say, by the way, that was the worst party I ever stayed in.
Beyond separating the yellow, the green T-shirt, and if I just ask you, give me your typical one-liner if I ask you to describe a political party in Kenya.
One-liner, a mayhem of confusion.
Right. Neto.
Am I supposed to do that one-liner? You know, the thing about political parties in Kenya and in Africa is something totally different from what Joe's aspirations actually look up to. Political party formations in Africa are not socially ingrained like what you expect in the West. Understand? A political party is supposed to espouse principles and issues of ideologies, if you want to say that. But in Africa, you understand that most political parties are tribe-based. Yeah, that is the difference. So that is why I am in ODM today, and if my party leader gets to LDP tomorrow, I'll be LDP. Not because of the ideologies that we espouse as a political party, but because of who then is the chief. That is how power in Africa is ascribed.
Did I just hear you say ideology is secondary?
Yeah.
Did I just hear you say, let's not worry about ideology as Kenyans? Did I just hear you say it's okay that if Louis goes LDP, UDP, PNP, whatever it is, tag along. After all, it's me you want to be the leader.
Kipchumba and I will share with you that you know...
That's what you've just said.
Just as I've said, yes. And I'll explain to you why. You see...
that can't be a nice thing. I won't even let you explain that for a minute.
It's a nice thing.
Why is it a nice thing?
You know, let me tell you.
Wait, you're aspiring to be a senator, and you're telling me...
There are realities out there.
So you're going to jump in and perpetrate the same thing?
No. Let me just tell you the reality. The reality is that political parties in Kenya are leader-based. So if the leader is of the constituents that you belong to.
No, we agree. I know that.
Exactly.
But we're saying,
and
where
it's
should
not
we
a bad
be going?
thing. It's not a bad thing. You know, there's a problem in this country of assuming that the West there are no regional-based and ethnic and color and race-based political parties, and actually conglomeration of parties. I have stayed in the United States. I mean, if Obama is going to do for a campaign, he will go and meet Hispanics. And he will campaign on issues of Hispanics. And in fact, the media will report and say that, does he have Hispanics or does he have? But in this country, it becomes bad if it's reported whether a particular party have Luos or they don't have.
I mean, even in US, you watched the elections the other day. They are asking, does this political party appeal to the blacks?
With all due respect, there are reasons why, for example, the Hispanics will be a key demographic, because there are issues that are very specific to them.
Absolutely.
Because in the US, for instance, there are issues of immigration, for instance, that will be important to them.
Absolutely.
But here we have a situation. Are you going to tell me that all Kalenjins have the same concerns in this country?
Absolutely.
I don't think so. I think that if you went to if you went
you're
some
losing
village,
you're saying
if you went to some village in Baringo,
Joe, he's saying that all Kalenjins are the same.
I don't think so. The problems that you have in Nairobi are very different from that.
Of course, Kalenjin in Nairobi would be different.
Villager who lives in Baringo somewhere. I mean, it is different.
The one in Nairobi,
your problems might be the same as mine, even though we don't speak the same language.
I agree, but look at, for example,
but you're agreeing to everything.
Let's take
you're losing.
Let me come to Louis. If you look at Asian community, for example, in this country, they are businessmen and businesswomen. Their main focus is business. So whether they are in Eldoret or they are in Mombasa, the objective is business. If you look at a community that's looking at farming, for example, largely Kalenjin community, they will be more concerned about which political party, and a candidate would be more concerned about issues related to farming. They will look at that side. In fact, in this country, any person who is in Nairobi, very few people are original Nairobians. Every person who is in Nairobi as is in a house, but his mind and support and everything is home. So he cares, or she cares, about who is going to be elected in Turkana, who is going to be elected in Kisumu, and so forth. For me, by the way, I have absolute no problem if Luo's candidates flock into court and support ODM because Raila Odinga is the presidential candidate. I have no problem with that. The problem I have is that if then the political party moves to a situation where once they are in that, the presidential candidates from that region, they mobilize themselves as them versus others. That's when I have a problem.
My problem with you is, as much as you give me the clarity of where the basis will be, where somebody needs a backyard that supports him, when you guys go up on a platform, then you start saying different things. You start saying, I am the leader of a party which will bring everybody together. I'm the leader of a party that doesn't speak for only the Kamba, doesn't speak for the law. So why are you giving me conflicting ideas?
Of course, primarily, ODM, for example, primarily has fast support.
Which is your party?
From I'll come to that, from Nyanza. Primarily URP, which I belong to,
there you go,
has support from Rift Valley and Kalenjin Rift Valley to start with, and then the rest of the Rift Valley because William Ruto belongs to that region. The same to Wiper, the same to TNA.
So this is not a bad thing?
I don't think it's a bad thing. The thing that party should do is to move beyond just saying we are a Kalenjin party, we only talk about Kalenjin. They should be able to move towards bringing other people together. But the fact that...
By doing what?
The fact that...
Give me one thing they can do.
By being inclusive in leadership. If you look at URP, except William Ruto as the party leader, the top leadership is different communities.
Oh, I know we're going to go there. Neto, tell me about, is this a good or a bad thing?
Two things. You see, political party formations are used for gaining political power, and that is how power is ascribed. In Africa, power has always been ascribed through a chieftain, a centralized system where one person is key, the other persons then follow into it. So what happens then is it makes it easy. If at all a political leader, pick from any community, all communities ascribe power in Africa differently. One, so long as the chieftain that has been accorded power, then they ascribe to that political principle. That is unlike what happens in the West. That is the ideologies you're talking about of green people. People believe in a green environment or social welfare issues. Africa ascribes power on the basis of a chieftainship, and that is why it's easy for just the chief of the village moves from one political party, then he gets everyone else following him. It's a bad thing in that it then tribalizes the country. And you hope that you can get Kenya at a level where you cannot be discussing issues and ideologies.
Who will do it? If you guys are saying it's a good thing now, in a few days you're going to perpetuate that same good thing. You're saying, who are we supposed to expect to do this? I just need to know who I'm pointing fingers at here. Because now they're saying one thing, and in a few days they're going to do the same. I have to mind my language. Yes.
It is absolutely unbelievable, because I think there would be hope if there is at least that aspiration to get there. Because quite frankly, you tell me that the people in the North Rift are worried about farming and whatever, but the truth of the matter is, if I go there, it doesn't matter how good my policies will be on farming. first and foremost, I need to come from there for me to get a vote. And I think the discussion should be, how do we get beyond that? Because if we agree we are going to be in the same country, unless we will say, okay, fine, let's split into some 42 little nations and do our own thing there. But as long as we agree to be within the confines of this geographical location called Kenya, quite frankly, we have to, in terms of leadership, aspire to get to that point where it doesn't matter where I come from. Because quite frank, I don't think that everybody in my village is necessarily concerned about the same thing. There's somebody who is a school teacher who rides a motorbike, and there's some guy who doesn't know where the next meal is going to come from. Those people are very different in the way they should think.
Joe, there's hope.
No, hang on. This put us in a situation where we had violence and dispute. And I need you to speak to this, because now we're hearing it's a good thing, let's all rally behind our chieftain, and then tomorrow let's all say we're trying to aspire to be better. What happens in this scenario?
Well, for me, one of the things is that political parties, it's true, have always been ethnic-based, have always been also mobilized by virtue of the leader. That is the way it has been. I think Kenyans were saying, with our new constitution, with democracy, with participation, that we're going to see something different. We are still where we are. I think for me, I'll be looking forward to 2017.
There'll be less chiefs.
I think so.
Peter, just take us back to that. We're not missing the whole thing about we're trying to work against a clock for a train that has left the station. So regardless of how Peter and Kipchumba, how Kipchumba and Neto, and you can see they agree on a lot of things when it comes to, are we going to get there? They agree on a lot of things. They won't agree on the 18th, but please just remind us, it's very important that you remind Kenyans, this clock is irreversible.
Yes, it is. And let me put it this way, there are a couple of things I'd like to squeeze in like you advise us to do. First of all, you must understand that when we talk about nominations, the only people that are involved in these nominations are members of political parties and the hierarchy of those political parties. The whole issue of nominations does not involve the mwananchi, so to speak, unless you're a member of a political party. And those are not too many people. But those few people are the ones that are determining the leadership of the nation. That's one thing that I want to put in. Number two, as far as I know now, 3rd of March is not an option.
Right.
4th of March. It has to happen. And I want to send out an appeal we've got 10 days before the 17th, or just under 10 days before the 17th. I want to send out an appeal to members of those political parties.
Look at him.
Yes, members of those political parties. You may not think 10 days is a long time, but I think is enough time, but it is enough time. It is incumbent upon you, and you owe it to this country, to ensure that these nominations reflect, as Joe said, democracy. If you don't get this reflection or thought of democracy in the nominations, there will be rampant apathy. People will give up and throw away their voting cards and say nothing has changed in this country.
Okay.
Because you have taken away the right of aspirants. You know, we talk every day about the youth. Young people must go into politics. Women must go into politics. Minorities must go into politics because they believe they can make a change in this country. And when they go to nominations, what do they meet?
They must impress their chief first.
They must, yeah, well.
That's what we are meeting. I'm just taking that away from you. I agree with you, but I'm just telling you what we've learned now. Is
so how we have 10 days, a crucial 10 days to change that perception.
Okay, Peter.
Let the person without a penny, the minority, the disabled, the lady, the youth, be able to go into those nominations and come out fairly. Okay. And if he feels he's been disenfranchised, let him be able to get a hearing and come out and say, yes, I lost fairly, or I won and they agreed with me, and I'm now going forward to make a change in this country. Because if they don't get through that kichinjio, let me tell you, we have a big problem in this country.
Last word, Anne.
As Kenya National Commission, we have come up with a checklist on the nominations that will be taking place. It's before after, we are very convinced that this checklist will bring out lessons learned. It will bring out some of the best practices that needed to have been put in place, and it will be very useful for Kenyans, not in the immediate, but in the long term. So I hope that will help, because the checklist is there to note participation of Kenyans, to note participation of minorities and also participation of vulnerable groups, and also to establish whether these parties, as we know them, are actually democratic and or are they just chieftains, as we have now been told.
Quick word, Neto.
Two things. First,
one thing, not a lot of time.
I think that the political party nominations should be handled by the IEBC or the electoral body that will be in charge at that particular point, because it's a political party primaries that actually give us the candidates who actually end up being members of parliament. So when you leave that process to only internal party issues, then I think there's already a problem. So if IEBC was to take over and conduct political party nominations, that would really give Kenya a way forward. And I think it just needs a bit of tweaking in terms of the legislation. The second thing that needs to happen again, I think, is the law enforcers, the persons charged with enforcing the law, the registered political parties, IEBC, for example, they need to crack the whip, because right now there is provision in the law. You cannot bribe voters, you cannot buy merchandise, you cannot do anything else. That already exists in the law. It's only upon the person in IEBC to block off a few candidates. If at all a few candidates are blocked off running an election because of bribing voters and for causing violence, I really think then we can start the learning process.
Chumba?
I actually want to bring to the attention of political parties that democracy in the primaries is not an option. It is mandatory. If you read the Elections Act, the Political Parties Act, political parties are risking being barred from fielding any candidate if they attempt violence or if in any way their nomination process is not free and fair. In fact, that is the greatest incentive for all political parties to carry out nomination, because when that process is over from the tribunal, if a member is aggrieved, he can go to bar that political party from having nomination. The last word is to say that, Louis, whoever makes the so-called political chiefs and is the people. They don't make themselves first and then they go to the people. So the people, no matter where that political chief is coming from and is now a presidential candidate, must hold that person to account, because they are the ones who made them, and must not appear as though that individual one person is holding the whole community at ransom.
I'll definitely speak to that. Joe, you want to say something quickly before I go?
Just that it looks to me like we're going to have a lot of stories. I just hope they can surprise me with the type of stories that we'll have.
Well, for me, as a thank you very much in terms of policy from Peter and from Anne. But for you two gentlemen, next time I see you here, I don't want you to tell me about a chieftain. This country is not talking about leadership that goes to a new level. But if you are telling me to go back and worry about what my chief wants, you're not impressing me as a Kenyan. But we'll talk about that, because I also want to invite you as a viewer, using our SMS numbers, using the email number, send in your word. Tell us what you want to see being debated. That has already come up. We're now going to look at old and new leadership. The debate is already out there, but you need to tell me what you think about it. Thank you for your time. My name is Louis. Have a good night.